Okay, so thank you, Craig, for being here today. Much appreciated for the first episode of Life Sport Flow. I really appreciate it.
I love the name, Jane. It's just sort of it flows.
Yeah.
But
It's so funny because I was going through my pictures and one of my friends when I talked to her about a podcast and she goes, you have to be the first one interviewed. I'm like, oh no, no. And then I sat with it and I'm like going, okay. And then yeah, I came across the photo of you, Serena, and I'm like, now I know who I'm going to ask to be the interviewer.
well, you're very kind. You're very kind.
Yeah.
What's the motivation what's brought you to come up with this concept?
So there's so much has happened since I finished playing tennis way back in 97. And I really struggled with that transition between tennis and life, so to speak. And over the years, for many, many reasons, it just kept coming back. And yeah, I was talking to a friend. I said, I think I want to do a podcast and really bring the lessons that I've learnt and also the work that I've done and bring it into a podcast and share because it's easy to look at an athlete's life, well, the media sees, but there's so much more to being an athlete than what people see.
One of the biggest adjustments, no doubt, is the regime that, let's use you as an example.
Mm,
Training 7 days a week, basically,
mm,
to be successful in your chosen sport, which is
mm.
tennis.
Yeah.
Then the transition to, I don't have to do that anymore. Did you find that had an effect on you that you suddenly thought, Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, I don't have to be on the tennis court?
Yeah, absolutely. And, to be honest, one of the biggest adjustments was, Craig, that so many people knew me as an athlete. And even after I finished playing and then I went to uni, people are going, oh, yeah, but what are you doing with tennis? You're a tennis player. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't do that anymore. I'm not able to. My body doesn't let me do that anymore. And so I would struggle with that.
Sure.
And yeah, so the adjustment and yeah, going into the real world in many ways.
It's changed so much, though, when you think
Mm,
back and let's go back to my era when I was
mm,
born in the 50s and 60s.
yeah.
Most athletes had a job
Hmm.
as well as, pursuing their chosen sport. So
Mm,
you think about rugby league players, usually
yeah.
worked at the rugby league club they played for,
Yeah.
but um, uh, and even tennis players
Mm,
had a job. They worked in a
mm,
sports store or they
yeah.
worked for a clothing manufacturer.
Mm,
Whether they actually did 40 hours a week is beyond, we wouldn't know.
yeah.
But they always had something that was solid and behind them.
Hmm.
These days, it's so different when you
Hmm.
think of the fully professional sports that we
Yeah.
see, both men and women.
Hmm.
We think of our cricketers,
Hmm.
men and women. We think of our rugby league players, our rugby union players, are all
Mm,
professionals now,
mm,
earning good money.
mm,
But by the time they get to, say, 35,
hmm.
that all ends. And if they
Hmm.
haven't been to uni or whatever,
Hmm.
what's next?
Yeah.
Is your podcast going to help?
Yes, I hope so. And it's funny
I'm
because
sure it will.
yes, I was speaking to a guy that I hit with this morning, and he's like, "Oh, I know such and such. I'll let him know that you're doing this because that was also part of his adventure." And I think there's so many stories out there, the other side of being an athlete that people just don't hear. And yeah, it's vulnerable to share. However, it's just really important that people realize that people are first and foremost a human being. They're not robots.
Correct, correct.
And yeah, we need to realize that more and more. And I get the money, I understand and appreciate all of that. But when we comment on wherever we comment, there's a human being behind that. And so I think we need to have a lot more compassion and really realize that people are human first and foremost. Yeah, they might be good at their sport. However, they have all the other things that go along with it. Like you said, we need to make money, we need to live, we need to survive, all that type of stuff.
Do the sporting organisations, and I'll use that as a very general
Mm,
term,
mm.
Do they provide any support for people who are leaving the sport
Mm,
in terms of sitting them down and saying, okay, you've announced your retirement. Here are people that can employ you or
mm.
talk to you about employment. Do you find that that is not the case, or is the case?
Well, that may have changed since I retired because I retired, as I said, in 97, and that wasn't something from my experience that happened. So that may have changed by now, but it's just, yeah, again, it's something that I have had so many conversations around, and I'm just sort of sick of sitting back and not saying something and
Yeah,
not sharing and really building that community because as athletes, people have so many skills. Like, if we think about employability, a lot of employers, they want people to rock up on time. Well, athletes are very good at rocking up on time because if they don't
yeah.
rock on time, they're going to miss their game or their match or whatever. So there's so many skills that are transferable between sport and life. And I'm not sure if that's really articulated extremely well.
And of course, you mentioned being on time,
Yeah.
punctuality, but also people who are driven
Mm-hmm.
to perfection, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing,
Mm.
and also they have that ability to apply themselves.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, with due respect, a lot of people think a lot of sports people are dumb.
Mm. Yeah.
That's that. You often hear that expression. Well, you know why he's a footballer, or you
Yeah.
know why he's a
Mm-hmm.
tennis player, or whatever. You often
Yeah.
hear that,
Mm.
and again, you go back to that human factor, and you
Mm-hmm.
go, "Well, hang on, no, we're talking about a human being here
Mm-hmm.
who has talent, great
Mm.
talent, but
Yeah.
how many other talents do they have that we can unlock?"
Yeah. Absolutely, Craig. I so agree with you. And Howard Gardner, multiple intelligence. Yes, most people know about, yeah, their athletes are good at physical, but they're good at so many other things. And it's just like, how can we actually unlock that within other people and support them in order to move towards their potential? Because being good at sport is one part, it's one dimension of a human being.
Sure.
People, they're so complex. And so there's so many things that can be done and help them and support them because sometimes, people don't really enjoy playing their sport anymore. Okay. So, and it's just that, and then they stay in the sport because they're not sure of what next. But there's lots of things that can happen next.
And one of the most common things, from my perspective, working in the media as I have for
Mm,
53 years now,
yeah.
is that many of these stars of many sports are
Mm,
snapped up by the TV networks
mm-hmm,
or on the free-to-air service, but also on
mm,
streaming services,
mm-hmm,
and become commentators.
mm-hmm,
But that's only a short stop
mm-hmm,
measure because
mm,
that's not going to last forever either.
mm. Yeah. Absolutely. And looking at the development or human development of an individual is really important. Okay. So obviously from when they're young all the way through, and are we actually maximizing everyone's potential? Because yes, media, one dimensional, again, but there's so many more things that people can do. And it's just about letting them know that there's so many other avenues out there
Sure.
as well and helping them find what they want to do. And that was part of my reasoning for not staying in the sport in many ways. Okay, yes, I did some coaching here and there, but I really wanted to take the path less traveled, so to speak, because yeah, people said, "Oh, you can do this and this," and I wasn't in the top 10 or anything like that. And it's just like, no, no, that's not going to be my path. My path's going to be a different adventure, and I'm going to, yeah, create that. And it's just that I didn't know that I'd be doing what I was doing, but it's just like you take little steps each day and you go, oh, okay, cool. So now I know why I'm here. And finally at 53, I do know why I'm here.
Good idea.
And I'm grateful for that. But if I didn't, if I stayed in the sport, maybe or maybe not, I would have found that. But yeah, it's people can do so many more things outside of a sport and they can also do them with inside a sport. It's just whatever lights them up. That's the most important thing.
One of the things you often hear in sport with those sporting legends, greats
Mm,
who've retired, or
mm,
well, they don't have to be a legend or a great, but they've been
yeah.
a high profile.
Mm,
They want to stay in touch with that sport, and I
hmm
would think that's very important. Whether they
mm,
take on a coaching role three
hmm
nights a week with junior kids,
yeah.
or assisting somebody in some area, being able to put, and a lot of them say, and I've read a lot of sports autobiographies, that
Mm,
they walked away, but they want to keep putting something back
mm.
into the sport.
Yeah.
That would be important, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Because they're part of the whole process. They've been in it for so long and they would have had to have loved what they did. They may have fallen out of love or they may still be in love with the sport, but absolutely keeping that connection. Because, we know from the mental health research, human connection is one of the biggest protective factors for people as human beings. And so having that connection is, yeah, absolutely essential.
The other thing, which I have read about in books written by those who've retired,
Mm,
is they struggled a lot with depression
mm,
when the sport finished.
yeah.
Um, and that sort of surprised me, in fact, with one or two
Mm.
people who I know who didn't reach out.
Mm. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know the reasoning behind that, Craig, but I worked in mental health for 7.5 years across schools in Australia. And, I was lucky enough to learn a lot about that space. But it's just remembering that sometimes people, you said the word before, perfectionism. And yeah, that can be a guard or that can be armor
Sure.
because no one's perfect. And that can then also have an impact on people asking for help because they have their perception of their identity encapsulated within who they are as an athlete. And it's just, again, asking for help. It's actually a sign of a strength, not a sign of weakness, which is, one of the things out there in the big wide world that people think asking for help is a sign of a weakness, but it's absolutely not. It's a sign of a sign of strength because they're just like, no, I'm not sure where to go. And honestly, I wouldn't be here, literally wouldn't be here without the support people in my world.
Right. Well, I can only wish you the very best of luck. And I think it's a fantastic concept.
Yeah.
I know that people will be listening to your podcasts
Mm.
because you have a lot of great contacts.
Mm.
And also, they're going to be able to hear, I'm not including me in that, but you're going to be able to talk to a lot of people about what I think is a very necessary part
Mm.
of people's lives when they do retire from a sport.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. And I'm yeah, extremely grateful for you. And when I reached out to you, thank you, yeah, so much for allowing me to be part of the adventure. And yeah, we'll just see where it goes. I don't really have an outcome. I'm just literally coming from my heart. And yeah, I really want to be able to support people and help people realize that there's so much more than their sport. Yes, they may have done well at it, but there's so much more than their
Sure.
sport.
Thank you very much and more.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Craig.